Hey guys, it's Liam here, and today we will be having a look at the continuous integration interaction between GitHub and Heroku. We will also be setting up a repository on GitHub and setting up the integration with Heroku so that it will automatically deploy upon any changes to your repository. In this third assignment, we are asking you all to use GitHub. So every member of your team will have to pull from the GitHub repository and also push to the GitHub repository. I'm expecting you'll probably have some issues with this, and we'll be around to help you with that where we can. There's plenty of guides out there. There's plenty of cheat sheets out there. But this is just going to give you a quick setup on how we will be asking you to deploy this assignment. So GitHub is just somewhere to store your repositories. It's widely used. It's just a place to basically source control or version control. So if person 1 makes a change to a document and person 2 makes a change to a document, but they both need to add it to the code base, Git is what will do that. So Git will track changes between different users so that your local versions and your code base can all stay the same and all be updated with minimal amounts of conflicts. Now, the other thing we're going to do with source control is we're going to have Heroku watch our GitHub so that anytime there is a change, Heroku will pull from that as well, just like any of your members would. And Heroku is then going to have a look at everything in that repository, and it's going to install all the dependencies and go through and try and build your application. And once that has successfully built, that will be displayable on a URL from Heroku. So this is how you're going to end up deploying your application. This is an example of continuous integration. So this means that your application should really never go down. So anytime you make a change, it will build it on Heroku and it will deploy that out to the front end so your users can continue using your product. With continuous integration, or it's called also continuous development, there's generally another step either here or here, which is unit tests. If you're using a repository like GitHub, it would usually happen in this spot. And it just means that you would have an extra little something out here that will pull your code first. It will run tests on your code base. So in this unit, we don't cover any tests, but in this case, it could be unit tests or user tests to make sure everything is working correctly and that no one has broken anything in updating something. And then once this has gotten the go ahead and all your tests pass, it'll send the green tick back and then it will deploy. So if this test suite here fails, you'll get red back and usually you'll get a notification to your team. I'm not sure if GitHub supports that, but you'll find that in most real world scenarios, if you're working for a big company or even a small company, you'll often have an alert that gets sent out to all of your developers that will tell them, hey, this build has just broken, something's gone wrong, you need to fix this before I can deploy it. And so with that, I guess we will make a start on setting that up. So there's a couple of things we need for this. One of them is being a GitHub account. So if you just go to GitHub and create an account for yourselves, that'll be the first step. Second step will be Git. Everyone will need Git for this. You can download Git from here. So if you just come and click on this, you can download either the Mac version or the Windows version. And once you have installed that, you will have something that looks like this called git bash. Now, what we have to do in here is set up our Git credentials. So what you will do for this is git config user.name, and then you can have your display name. So in my case, Liam Wrigley. Ooh, okay. So my bad. First thing we'll need to do is set up our repository. So once we have this done, you can come up to the top right. You will also have it up here. You can click on this to make a new repository. I'm going to call this Heroku deploy example. We don't need a description. I'm going to leave this one private so that it is not public for anyone that can find this name. And I'm going to add a README file, and I'm going to add a git ignore. So you can drop this down, and we are using Python, so that will just give us a little bit of a template. README, I don't know if you will end up doing that or not, but it is just a nice, it's something nice to fill out that is just markup to display on your repository that will help users know what is happening there. And when I say users, I mean anyone that has access to your repository. So be it your team members or a tutor or anyone you're showing. So we will create this repository. And now here we have a repository. Our README is empty at the moment. It just has this in it. That's completely fine. So the first thing you want to do after you have Git and you have your repository set up on GitHub is we come up to code, we click this to copy the URL, and we are going to create a repository for that in our local on our computers. So we can right click here, go git bash, and we can go git clone and then shift insert to paste that in, and we can clone that. So now that's done, we can see that we have this repository here now. There'll be nothing in it at this point, just everything that is here. Now, if this has not worked for you, and it's saying that you need credentials, this is where you'll need to add some Git credentials. So you can go git config user.name, not in a Git directory. Okay, so I'm going to cd into my deployment and try that again. So now I've said, so now I'm in this repository and I've got this. This is just saying that that's my username. So when I push, and the other one you'll want is git config user.email. And this will be the email of your GitHub. So there we go. So now if I do git config user.email, I can see that that's my email. And if I do name, I can see that that's my name. So in that department, we are completely fine. So in my example, we just have an empty repository here, but I have these files that I want to deploy. So the easiest way to do this is just to grab these and drag them straight into here. So now these are ready to be added. Now the way I'm going to show you how to do this is just through Visual Studio Code, just because it is very, very, very simple to do on there. So if you open up that folder, in my case, Heroku deploy example, in your Visual Studio Code, you'll see that some of these have colors now. And this nice little 15 here. So this third one down, the little source control symbol, indicates that this has found that it is part of a repository. And now you can start pushing and pulling your changes. So here we see that I have 15 changes. So a change is something that you have done that is different to the last time you have pulled your from your code base. So anything that has changed since the last time you pulled from the code base. Now, these are all updates, but you can get M for modified, you can get D for delete, and sometimes it'll tell you how many things. So if I come in here and have a look at this, we can see that from last time, there was nothing, and now there's this. This is normal at this point because we have, in the eyes of our repository, we have just created all of these files. Now, what we want to do is take these from changes to staging them. So changes are things that have changed, but are not necessarily ready to go forwards. But once you've staged them, this means that these are all the changes that you want to add to your repository. So up here, I'm going to say initial commit. And then if we hit Control Enter on that, that has added all of those changes. And now we can see down here that we are 0 behind and 1 ahead of the main code base, being the master branch of Heroku deploy example. So if we are 1 behind, if we are 1 ahead, that means that we have changes that the code base does not. If we were 1 behind, that means that the code base has changes that we do not. So because I'm 1 ahead, this means that I can just straight away push. So this means I can just click this. And that's gone now. And if we come and refresh this page, we can see that all of this is here. Now I have some files that you guys will not at this point, like requirements and procfile. Don't mind these will come later. We have a video for this kindly done by Sharu. He's done a great job at that, but that will accomplish this quite well. Now, VS Code is quite integrated with Git and source control, so that's how all this is working. But that does not mean that you cannot do it from here. So right now I'm in the master branch, and thankfully I am actually up to date with master branch. But if I went git pull, it has just checked this and it has said I'm already up to date, so there's no changes. But then if I were to come in to say, let's go into travel, let's go into destinations, and let's just add a comment here and save that. We come into our source control, we can see that there's this change. Now, it's easy to go through and just do it through the interface, but what you can also do is do it through command line. So I want to add this to stages. I'm going to say git add, and I can say destinations.py. Oops, sorry. An easier way than specifying the file exactly is git add dot, and that'll add any changes. And you can see now that that has gone to staged. So the reason this one didn't work as well is because I'm in the wrong folder. So if I said travel/destinations.py or the relative URL to it, that would have worked. But you can see now that we've staged this change, and now we can go git commit m for message, and let's say we added a comment to destinations.py. I have to use double comments. So now we have got this in the same spot where we are 1 ahead, but we have not pushed the change to the code base yet. So now we want to do git push and that has successfully pushed now. So if I refresh this page now, we can see I've got a change in here 24 seconds ago, and we have a look in destinations and we can see the commit message. So we added a comment to destinations. If I have a look at destinations, I can see the comment. Now that we have all of this sorted and it's all pushed and up to date, another thing you might want to do is pull. So say someone else has made a change and put that in here. So let's see if I can find a way to do that. So if I just make a new text file and I drag and drop this into here. So I'm going to commit that directly to the master branch. So this is something that it has to have something in it. Now it has content. So this is something that you would not do. This is just for me to demonstrate to you that, so now this doesn't know it yet, but our code base is actually ahead. So now it sees that. We're now one behind the master branch. So what we can do is git pull, and it has now added this. We can come in here and we can see test. Test is right here. And now we are up to date again. I want to delete this now because it's not useful. You'll find that we now have a change here again. Now it's a delete. I'm going to git add. I'm going to git commit with a message. And then I'm going to git push. Let's come back in here, refresh this, and we can see that that's gone again. So that is the very, very basics of version control. There's a lot more that you can do with it, but for this assignment, we're hoping that it can stay pretty simple for you guys, or it can get out of hand quite quickly. So the next thing we're going to do is Heroku. So if you don't have a Heroku account, go ahead and create that and come back to this video when you have it completed. Okay, so you have your account and now we're on this page. We want to set up a new application. So come up to here, go create new app, and I'm going to call this Heroku test deploy testing. No, bad name. I'll call that 1 because I happen to know that Heroku test deploy is not an available name. So now we've got this. We have it on United States because it does not really matter what we do here. And we do not want to add a pipeline just yet. So we've now created our application and we're greeted by this page. So there's a couple different ways that we can deploy to Heroku. One of them would be Heroku's command line interface, which we have done in the past, but Heroku Git uses a repository that we can't see and we can't track changes. So if I were to come into here in our GitHub and have a look at, where is it? May not be able to see it just yet because I'm the only person in this branch. Oh, here we go, contributions. So here you can see that all the commits have been mine and all of the changes have also been mine. In another project with team members, you'll have multiple members and you can see everything that's happening here. That's something that you cannot do with Heroku's Git. So we're going to use GitHub and connect this to our GitHub account. Now, mine is already here. You should be able to get that there quite easily if you just click on connect to your GitHub. So mine is already here. Let's go back to our GitHub and check the name of our repository. So mine is Heroku deploy example. So I'm going to come into here and go Heroku and search. We can see that I've got this Heroku repository here, and this one has found it because in the README, it contains the keyword Heroku. So I'm going to connect this Heroku repository, and a heap more settings come up. So this is the step of we are now at, we just showed you this step. we are setting up now this step. So when we come into here, we get a heap more settings now, and we can say, what branch do we want to pull this from? So right now, your repository will have one branch called master. It's fine to leave it on master, but if you wanted, you can create another branch in here, and let's call that Heroku deploy. We're not going to use this just yet, but this is another branch that is right now the same as master. And say you didn't want to push every change you make to Heroku, you would, when you're ready to deploy to Heroku, push to this branch instead of your master branch. That's okay. It's a little bit complicated for the moment. You don't need to use different branches unless you are comfortable with it. For now, we're just going to leave this on master. So we're not going to tick this because we don't have anything that is checking to see if we have passing tests. And we also want to enable automatic deploys. So this means anytime that Heroku detects a change in here, if it detects a commit at all, it is going to pull that code and it is going to try and build it. Now, the first time that you connect this, it's not going to deploy automatically. So we are just going to come down to the manual deploy and click deploy branch. And you'll see here in just a moment that it has now received the code from GitHub. It is now going through and installing all of the dependencies. Once it has finished installing dependencies, it will go to the release phase and then it will deploy it to our Heroku. So it has successfully passed all of these steps and it has deployed it to Heroku. We can click on this to view. And we can see here that I now have my travel app. Like in your assignment, in your workshops, we can go to destinations/1, and we can see that we have this destination. I can go to create and create a destination. And now we have Australia here in number 4. Comments should work as well. We have our comment. And we can go back to our home. So that is all successfully set up now. So if we were to make a change, so let's have a look and see what sort of changes we can make. Let's go to our base.html. Let's maybe change our navbar to navbar dark. I'm going to save that. We get a little notification saying that we have a change. I'm going to stage my change, and I'm going to say change navbar to dark. I commit my change. I then want to push. I can go git push. This will push to the master branch. If we come in here and refresh this, we can see that I have this change showing up here. And if we go into our activity, we can see that Heroku has just seen that there's a change. It is now going through those steps again and trying to build again. So once this is finished building, we'll go back to our site, refresh it, and see that our navbar is now black or dark. We can come back here and we can see if the build will be successful or the build will fail. You can always roll back to any build that was previously working. You can also compare the difference. So we can see here, this is the only change that I made. And now if we come in here and refresh this, we can see that our nav bar is dark. So that is the very basics of setting up your repository, setting up your Heroku, and linking them together. Hope that was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.